Hello, Culés. Welcome to Barca Talk. I'm your host, Gabriel Quiroga, here in the Spanish capital. In today's show, Dom Kostanjšak joins me as we discuss the tactical state of Barca and, more importantly, how Xavi will make changes to the team and spacing. On Friday night, late Friday night, Xavi was finally officially appointed the next manager of FC Barcelona after a long, dragged-out negotiation, which I think took way too long, but whatever. Laporta and his team were able to finally deliver the manager. Now, if you've been listening to the pod, you know I was not the biggest fan of Koeman for his tactical decisions, lineups, fitness, and player development. I really wanted a change more than anybody and think it should have been done before the season started. But now we have Xavi, and I'm super excited. Not only for the romanticism of one of my favorite players of all time coming back as a manager, but I think this is a pivotal moment in Barca's history that we need Xavi to help us bridge the gap and get through this. Now, even though Xavi doesn't have true European managerial experience, I think he's definitely the best manager for this moment right now. Most importantly, we need to give him patience so that he puts his stamp on the team. Obviously, I'm hoping that he will further develop the young nucleus that we have. And obviously, we need to focus on the two most important things this season to me are getting out of the group stage of Champions League and finishing fourth in La Liga. Those are the two most important things as goals for me for this season. And for next season, we can hopefully add some players and, have higher goals. But that's what we need to do for this season. Now, obviously, with him being the manager, hopefully he'll bring some stability that we've been lacking at FC Barcelona since Laporta has taken over, obviously since Bartomeu even further, right? So, again, I was kind of joking in our WhatsApp group for our Patreon members. I was saying, imagine if we were Liverpool fans, like what would we be talking about right now? And I said, just players and tactics, how boring. And obviously I was doing that in jest. But again, every day there seemed to be something happening in the last 3 months. Obviously is Koeman staying? Is he going? What's Laporta thinking? Obviously the Messi thing, the Pedri renewal, Fati renewal, like there's just always something going on. And I really hope now that we are invested in Xavi, there's going to be some stability going forward because he's going to be the manager for the next 2 to 3 seasons because we just cannot afford another new manager. We have 32 million euros invested already paying out to previous managers of Valverde, Setien, and Koeman now. So we just can't, we have to be patient with Xavi. Again, I'm excited obviously because he's one of my favorite players of all time, but I just really think that more than anything, he's going to be able to communicate to the press and to the players and to manage expectations better than previous coaches. I think since he was a star player in the modern football area, I think he understands what it takes and how to manage these things now. Whereas I think maybe Koeman and Valverde and Setien were older coaches, a little bit out of it, of what it takes to be a modern footballer. I think that's really special. More importantly, I think Xavi's going to help bring his stamp to the midfield. I think the midfield is going to develop even further, and that is really the crown jewel of our team right now with Nico, Pedri, Jong, and Gavi. And so I'm really excited. So, Xavi, welcome home. Quick Barca Talk announcement. We have updated our website, barcatalk.net. You can do so many things there. First, you can check out the reviews. You can leave a review, read the reviews. Second, you can leave a voicemail for this show. Also, you can join our newsletter that we publish every Wednesday. We kind of aggregate all the latest news and videos from all over the web about FC Barcelona. And you can also sign up for our Patreon there as well. Check it out on your mobile phone. It's super fast and it looks great on there. So check it out, barcatalk.net. After the break, Dom Kostanjšak joins me as we do a tactical breakdown of yesterday's Celta match as well as talking about the new Xavi era. And so how did you get into Barca? How did you start following Barca?
Well, it's been almost 20 years now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically my dad. When I was still a little boy, he came back home with a Barca kit. He actually had he had a Chelsea kit and a Barca kit, and he was like, "Okay, Dom, you get the Barca kit, and my brother got a Chelsea kit." That's how we started. It could have easily been the other way around, and I could have been a Chelsea fan. but fate wanted me to be a Barca fan, and so here I am, I guess.
Nice. Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast is you started this tactical newsletter, and I subscribe to it, and I have to say it's awesome. The analysis that you did so far, I can't wait to see in the future what you guys do on a weekly basis. But in your last one, you did a great analysis of Nico and Frenkie de Jong. And in yesterday's match, obviously there was not the result that Barca was looking for, especially going up 3-0 and allowing three unanswered goals. But, I was really watching yesterday, especially after reading your analysis, and I know we were going to talk about this, Frenkie and Nico yesterday. And you really had some really awesome points. Yesterday, I think Frenkie had some of the positives that you talked about, like the driving, those opportunities he had, but also, like you said, he has so many other responsibilities that I think it hinders him. Tell us a little bit more about, your kind of point of view about Frenkie, and especially kind of relating to yesterday's match, especially with the tie against Celta 3-3.
I think, the big question about Frenkie was always, is he going to make it as a Barca pivot? And I feel like, yes, he has the qualities, he has the ability to do so. But the thing about Frenkie is he is so versatile. He might be way too versatile for his own good, because coaches see him and they're like, okay, he can do this and he can do that. And they kind of want him to do everything at the same time. And that doesn't really work, because Frenkie doesn't know what exactly is it that he's supposed to be doing in the match. So he tries to be a pivot at times. He tries to be a number 8. He tries to be this deep flying playmaker. And when you have a player who doesn't have a clearly defined role, he struggles. Obviously, he's going to struggle. And then you have Nico, who has a certain skill set that's similar to Frenkie. When I was scouting Nico, I was like, okay, this guy is a Frenkie de Jong regen. He's basically the same player, just more physical and more powerful, and he's got a more of a attacking drive, if you will. So if you put him in a specifically defined role as a number 8, for example, who will drive forward and do those runs like a Vidal, like a Paulinho, if you will, he will thrive because he knows exactly what he's supposed to do, and he has the skill set to accommodate that role. Whereas Frenkie, he will try and do way too much in a certain situation, and that will kind of hinder him that way. So I feel like if you give Frenkie a role that's clearly defined, he will do it. He can do it. He can do most of the things that coaches ask of him. It's just that he has to do too much. That's a problem.
It's a good point. And let me just ask you blatantly, do you think Busquets playing the amount of minutes is hindering this? Because I've always kind of positioned myself as De Jong kind of being in that Busquets role, and I think that's where he could thrive. And especially now with the development of Nico and Pedri, I think that would be an awesome midfield going forward. And again, we're kind of in this position where we're depending so much on Busquets, obviously for his his experience and the minutes, and obviously he's the captain of the team. But like you said, I don't know if it's just putting him in that role and maybe we unlock him further. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I guess so. I think if we're gonna have Frenkie de Jong and potentially Nico as well as our Busquets replacements, we have to accept the fact that it's gonna be a different kind of number 6 for Barcelona. Busquets is very unique. I mean, he has marked a whole era for Barcelona, and I get that people when they think of pivots at Barcelona, they think of Busquets, and that's fair enough. But the thing is, if you're gonna play Frenkie there and Nico there, it's going to be a bit different because they are different players. They have different qualities. But sure, they can do some of the stuff that Busquets can do, but they have some of the things that their strengths lie elsewhere as well. So if you limit Frenkie de Jong to just the first phase of the pitch, just the Barca's half of the pitch, he won't really thrive because he wants to go forward. He wants to carry the ball forward. He wants to beat markers. He wants to play make a bit, which is not something that you would usually see Busquets do. And it's not because Busquets cannot do it. Take Busquets' role at Spain, for example, and take his role at Barca is different because he is more of a playmaker for Spain as well, I would say, because he goes forward more and he has more of the freedom to do so. While at Barca pivots nowadays are more limited, I would say. So if we're going to have Frenkie in that role, he has to have more freedom. He has to be a different kind of pivot.
Yeah, and again, we saw glimpses of how awesome Frenkie can be when he is let to drive the counterattack. Especially, he hit the post on that one play, and that to me was what I thought Frenkie was going to be at Barca. You know, that play, I think, is a microcosm because that's what we saw at Ajax. And I was really excited for him. Unfortunately, hit the post with that play. Now, going back to Nico, again, like you said in your analysis, that Nico is just a physical specimen. And I can see that now more and more watching him play, just his attitude and also just the attacking balls that he's putting forward more into the attacking third. How can, you know, especially now that Xavi is officially the coach, how can Xavi use Nico even more to, you know, get more goals? Because recently, you know, take apart this Celta game, we have been struggling to score goals. So how can Xavi utilize Nico to unlock even further, especially on that right side, which I always feel has been underutilized for the last 6 seasons or so?
So Nico has that ability he has the strengths of a physical midfielder who likes to drive forward, but he also has a technical ability of a La Masia talent, which is excellent. It's been a while since Barca have had such a player. I mean, I've already said that he's like a Vidal or a Paulinho just with the technical quality. Yeah. And that's not meant to discredit Paulinho or Vidal. They're both great players in their own right. It's just that Nico has that technical superiority on them. So I feel like if Xavi is going to use Nico in the number 8 role, that's what he has to do. He has to become this aggressive midfielder who's going to arrive into the box, who's going to be more courageous, which, you know, shooting from outside the box or maybe inside the box as well. That doesn't matter. And Nico seems to be developing in that particular way too. So that's good because Barca lack those type of midfielders. I cannot remember when was the last time that midfielder scored a goal for Barca. Barca generally lack goal scorers at the moment, but you know, for midfield especially. So maybe if he develops in that way, that will be beneficial for Barca. Definitely.
I love that comparison of Paulinho with more, you know, ability and skill, because again, Paulinho, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of his, but he did score some crucial goals, you know, especially against Getafe and so forth. You know, just kind of finishing up on the midfield, you know, especially with Xavi's influence coming in here. And one of the things I've just kind of noticed, especially just watching different matches, like, for example, when I was watching the Man City Manchester United game, Liverpool against Atletico, for example, is the fitness of this midfield. How can Xavi kind of give his influence with this midfield? Because I feel that sometimes it's very static at times, you know, trying to pass horizontally. What could Xavi do to kind of push more the envelope of going forward? I mean, especially with Nico there, I think that's going to help. But is there any other things that he could do to kind of push that influence to get it, you know, a little bit more dynamic, especially, you know, remember how Xavi used to play? He was always moving, passing, looking, you know, and hopefully that'll translate to this midfield.
And that's key. I'm glad you said that, because I think just the fact that Xavi was such a good midfielder in his playing days, I think that will matter a lot, because he knows what a midfielder is supposed to do, what a Barca midfielder is supposed to do. And, you know, Nico, Pedri, Gavi, Busquets, Frenkie, they all have the quality, they all have the skill to play as Barca midfielder. They all scan all the time, they all move. I mean, they know how to do it. It's just that at the moment, just a lack of a structure and a lack of a clear plan is kind of hindering them, because they're not exactly sure what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, at times, yes, of course, Nico, for example, is a great example, because he knows what he's supposed to do and he does it so well. But other players like Frenkie struggle because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing exactly. So I feel like Xavi being, you know, an ex-elite midfielder will help, because he was in their shoes once. He knows how to do the stuff that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think, you know, especially if Frenkie de Jong just is a little bit like maybe 5 to 10% more active in just the triangles, I think that is going to help that much more. Now let's go to the attack. You know, yesterday Barca were able to score 3 really nice goals in the first half, you know, before all the injuries happened, essentially. But I really kind of want to focus on Memphis, because I think Memphis has had some good games. And obviously he's been lost in some games. And I know that Xavi really wants to have like an official number 9. Memphis is not really the official, quote unquote, dream number 9 that you would have. He's a more of Koeman's type of player. But how can Xavi utilize Memphis more? Is he just going to put him up the middle and have him push the line, do you think? And also just, you know, I think one of the things that Memphis is lacking is ball security. I think Memphis is too loose with the ball. And I think, you know, Xavi really needs to focus that. But how do you see Xavi, you know, maybe trying to maximize a little bit more? Because we need Memphis's speed, his physicality, and most importantly, his goals.
Well, Memphis, when he first signed, I was not sure about him, because he was just not the type of player that I thought Barca needed at the moment. But then he showed that he can actually be a runner. He can be the physical presence, as you mentioned. He's maybe not the traditional number 9, but he can work there as well. And I feel like the crucial thing for Xavi to do with Memphis is pair him up with the right profiles. So if you have if you have Memphis and Coutinho, for example, in the same squad, that doesn't work because they like to hog the ball a lot. They love to have the ball at their feet. They want to dribble and drive with the ball, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it just slows down the attack so much, and sometimes they do it far too much, and it's not working when you have multiple player profiles like that. So you have to pair him up with runners. You have to pair him up with pace, with verticality, and width, which is something that Barca don't really have at the moment. But that would be like the ideal scenario for Memphis. The same was true for Messi as well. Messi needed players who can run, who can utilize his vision. He can, those passes that Messi had. We never really had players that could benefit as much from those passes, from those killer assists and all that stuff. I think it's all about having the right player profiles who kind of complement each other. That's the thing for Xavi to kind of do.
Yeah, and again, going back to this idea, obviously, if everyone was fit, I think you'd be very scared as a defense seeing Fati, Memphis, and Dembele. But now Fati's going to be out for a couple of weeks, as the news is coming out with his hamstring, and obviously Dembele, we know his injury issues. So, for these next couple of weeks, especially with the next round of Champions League against Benfica, like you said, I think that's a great point that Memphis needs to be paired up with someone. But now, how can you be paired up if our whole team is essentially injured? I mean, going into the Benfica game, which is going to be absolutely crucial, do you line him up with maybe 2 forwards or something like that? Because essentially you're going to have to be ultra creative in this matchup because you don't have wings, essentially.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, once again, Barca will have to rely on fullbacks, I guess. I mean, Alba and Dest. I mean, players like that will be crucial, and maybe you could look into the academy as well. Xavi is going to be big on that. I think that he will try and promote more kids as well. And we do have some wingers in the academy too that can be used. Maybe that could be a solution. If not, I just don't know. I guess Memphis would be the type of player who kind of sits at the back and then playmates from there. From a sort of a false 9, a number 10 position, not exactly a clear number 9. It's difficult.
It is difficult. That's the thing. Everyone is excited, obviously, for Xavi to come because of obviously, going to be using La Masia. I think another thing that he's going to do immediately is increase the fitness of this team, which I think has been quite lacking. It's quite interesting because in our Patreon WhatsApp group, we sent a meme of the injury starting 11. And you can put a team of the starting 11 that is injured currently. You have Aguero and Braithwaite, Fati, Nico, Pedri, Dembele, Dest, Piqué, Garcia, Roberto, and then Neto. So just to show, that obviously the gauntlet of La Liga, Champions League with this team is going to be difficult. As much as we're excited for Xavi, especially in the Benfica match, it's going to be very difficult to pair Memphis with someone that is healthy and can play the full 90 because as we saw yesterday, we had a lot of issues going with that. Now I want to pivot to the defense because this has been one of my biggest contentions for the last 3 years with this team. The defense to me has been brutal. It's been amateur hour, especially in the first matches where it's just first shot, first goal to me is unacceptable.
Exactly. It is.
The first thing I want to go to is, and we saw yesterday, obviously we had a patchwork team because of injury. So yesterday was kind of a fluke, but I want to talk about the previous kind of matches. How does Xavi come in and fix this with this counter-attacking defense? Because I think this is super crucial. It's one of those things is it philosophy or win the match, right? With the high line. But when you have the high line and you have players aren't fast enough, especially Alba in his age now, I mean, Gessa, for example, is not the speediest. How can Xavi come in and try to put his stamp to solidify this defense? Because I can't remember the last time we had a shutout.
That's a fair point. So the thing is, I think that a good defense comes from a good structure in possession. If Barca, when they lose the ball and they just scramble and they cannot really counter press that well and they cannot really plug the holes quickly enough, that's where the problems kind of rise from. And so fixing the rest defense, so your structure in possession when you're in possession of the ball, that you have a structure in place in case you lose the ball, that you can transition straight into a good counter-pressing sequence. That's the key for Xavi. And Barca have been, at least in the modern time, that they've always been a team that wants to press high, that wants to be aggressive off the ball. And I feel like Xavi is going to persist with that. That's what he loves to do anyway. And if that's the case, Barca need to be far more compact, because if you have the midfield and the defensive line deep, and you have a four line that is way too high, that doesn't work, because the opposition can just play through you. So I guess compactness is key, and the structure and possession is key for Barca to be kind of more solid, if you will, defensively. That's kind of what I think that needs to improve if we're gonna continue with this style of play.
Yeah, and going back to your analysis of the Clásico, where Real Madrid exploited that corner, right, with Vinicius, and understanding that thing. One of the things I really hope with Xavi, and this is kind of a gripe of mine for the last coaches that we have, I want to see tactical adjustments for big matches. Yes, you can keep the philosophy, but like, for example, knowing that they're going to try to exploit Vinicius, how are you going to protect that? And don't wait to minute 60 to make these changes, when you're already losing 1-0, this type of thing. Now, going back to this defense, again, like I just said, everyone is hurt and so forth. I mean, is there anything else that Xavi could do just on basic terms of just, I don't know, like, I feel like these players, they're awesome technically, they're fast enough to be a good, solid defense. But like, for example, Garcia, I feel like every time he's on a one-on-one battle, he's losing that. Is there something like just being more physical? And like yesterday, Langlais, like, how many mistakes did he have that almost led to a goal? And it's just like this mishmash. And it's just like, I just feel like, I know it's really hard to compare the defense of 6 years ago, 7 years ago when they were elite. But I mean, it's just basic things that I feel like they just need to work on in practice. It's kind of those things. Like, I'm a big basketball fan, NBA fan. And it's kind of like, if you're not hitting your 3-pointer, your shot, like, you go to the gym and work on that. Right. And I just feel like, this has been a problem for the last few seasons, that we never see any type of improvement where we can actually tactically say, oh, wow, look, Eric Garcia now is like more physical, good body position, and not fouling as much. I mean, is it just as maybe I'm just too simple in this way, just saying they need to train harder on this, but I don't know. I just don't see improvement.
I would agree with that. I think that some of the things Barca do in defense are just basic things that they're doing wrong. And I think, when it comes down to it, in training, just Xavi. I'm not sure how Xavi can instantly improve that, and those players have the capacity. I think they should have the capacity to be better defenders. They should be, because they're all elite on the ball. That's what Barca need, and defenders, obviously, and center back especially. But that defensive side, the more physical side, is lacking. That is true. I'm not sure how to fix that. Just apart from just go to the training ground and try and fix it that way. I guess that would work. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what to tell you about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things, like, like when I see in American football, for example, when they use the pads, like, to be more physical and stuff. I don't know if it's just like, I don't know. I feel like, especially like with Garcia, when I watch him, I just feel like he's on ice skates, the way he doesn't understand, like, to turn. I just feel like that's like basic football stuff that you learn as a kid, and I know he's gifted player. So I just have a couple more questions about Xavi, just kind of bring tactics from outside to La Liga and Barcelona. Do you think most of his tactical principles will work out, or is there going to be something that he may have to kind of adjust because, obviously the Qatari League is not as competitive as La Liga?
I think, yes, on paper it should translate well. Mostly, yes. I believe that his philosophy and the way that he sees football is very compatible with what Barca want to do and what Barca are based on. So I think, yes, in general, I feel like it will be a good match. But the thing is, of course, the quality and the level are different. So maybe it'll be interesting to see how Xavi handles tougher opposition, because in Qatar he was mostly facing teams that were not as good as his team was. At least that's my understanding. I still have to do a lot more research on him, and I will do an analysis of how his tactics will fit Barca very soon. But in general, yes, I feel it will be a good match, and I'm really excited to see how that works out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously there was a video last week circulating around about his coaching philosophy, and it's like, how can you not get excited about the
Yes,
understanding?
exactly.
And I know, like, for example, I don't want to throw Koeman under the bus just completely like
Yeah.
that, but I just don't get the same animo, the same feeling from
Right.
Koeman and with Xavi, you know? So this is the other question I have for you, because you led perfectly against tougher opponents, right? How, we've seen the static passing.
Yeah.
How can Xavi or Barca in this new era try to unlock it, especially when a team is playing 8 in the back? Is it, I'm always kind of in this mold where now I feel like if there's a counterattack available, take it. Because like the way Italy did it this summer with the Euros, where they just took those numbers and it put the defenses they were facing on balance. Because I think a lot of times, yes, it's good to hold the ball and possess it and so forth, but I also feel when you do that, you're waiting for the defense to stack up and then you lose that opportunity. So what kind of things do you look at, like maybe, especially like, against Dynamo Kiev when they had a hard time trying to unlock that? Any new things that you're seeing like in the EPL with like especially Man City trying to unlock these teams when they park the bus?
Well, it's difficult. That is unlocking a deep block has always been one of Barca's biggest challenges, I guess. The thing is, they were always so one-dimensional in their approach. It was always teams knew what Barca were gonna do even before Barca did it. And the thing is, Barca had Messi, so Messi could do something out of nothing, and that was what bailed them out so many times. And now that they don't have Messi and they try to do this very same things all the time, it doesn't work because they don't have the magic man to somehow solve every problem. So I feel like, look at Real Madrid, for example, as well. They adapt to the situation. I mean, they came to the Camp Nou and they were like, okay, we're just not going to have the ball. We're just going to wait for Barca to struggle to breach our block, and then just we're going to hit it in a counter attack and score. And Barca, they don't have that kind of versatility in their approach. They have this one approach that they know how to do. Well, sort of, I guess. And they just do that. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that it's kind of a problem, because if you don't have a plan B, what happens when plan A doesn't work? That's a big issue, I feel like. So just being able to adapt and maybe just move away from that philosophy for a little bit. Because if you look at Ernesto Valverde, for example, he is one of the coaches that was highly criticized for not being the Barca DNA coach or whatever. But it still worked. I mean, his Barca were maybe not the most exciting Barca that we've seen in years, but it worked most of the time. So I feel like just adapting to certain situations is key. Just don't bang your head against the wall. If something doesn't work, just try and change it up a bit.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing right now, because again, when the team stacks up, how are you going to take advantage of that? Obviously, we're not a team that can just put in 30 crosses.
Of course.
Oh my God, I just remember this. This means Luke de Jong is going to start. Wow. Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, again, yesterday was a tale of two halves, right? The first half was glorious. I mean, the way Barcelona were moving, and I think it really had to do with obviously Fati combining with Memphis, obviously on the first goal from Fati. So, I mean, there is the potential for obviously exciting goals, exciting attack, and this type of thing. But again, really, Dom, I think the first thing Xavi needs to do is upgrade the fitness team, the medical staff team, because to me, not being able to estimate returns on players and have them correct is a huge no-no in professional sports. If you say that he's going to come back in 10 days and they come back a month later, you're doing something wrong. So I think that is the most important, because we saw, like, for example, Nico, he didn't get injured, but he got tired, and he's vital. He's vital, man. After, it's kind of funny how your perspective changes a little bit when you start to kind of research a little thing. Obviously, I was noticing how good he was, but when I read your analysis and then just kind of really eyeing him yesterday, I was like, wow, like I'm really excited for this future, especially with the amount of players, because, one of the things too is that if you look at any other team in Europe and to tell them they have 7 academy players making contributions, they would be over the moon. And we have to use this to kind of bridge this gap of there's trying times in Barcelona. Any last thoughts about Xavi coming as a coach and tactical 4-1-1 on going forward with Xavi?
Well, not exactly. We'll see. We'll see when he finally starts implementing his ideas. We'll see how it goes. But I would just say that we need to be patient with him.
Sure. I mean,
It's that's key. I mean, don't expect miracles just overnight. It won't happen. The team is what it is. The injuries are there. We cannot really ignore that as much as we would like to. And it's just, I think that he'll make it. I think he'll be a very good coach for Barca. It's just that, just give him a bit of time, I guess.
yeah, like we were talking earlier, we've both been fans for a long time, so we know
Yeah.
the tumultuous times before. I
Mm.
always think of the Van Hal era. That's always kind of the the
Yeah, I
era
know.
for me. But also, like you said, it's patience, and also the other thing too, Dom, is that Barca can't afford any more coaches. They're spent.
No.
I just saw a stat the other day: 32 million with
Wow.
Valverde, Setien, now Koeman that they're paying out. So it's Xavi for at least 2 seasons, and so yeah, like you said, we have to give patience. Well, Dom, like I said, I was telling you earlier through Twitter and everything, your newsletter is phenomenal. I can't say
Thank you.
this enough. I love looking at tactical analysis of this. So I will put the link in the show notes. And Dom, thanks for joining me.
No, you're welcome. Glad to be here.